Hello and good evening. It is my pleasure to be here tonight. Um,
Thanks, man.
my name is Juan, here with the two buds, Kevin and Mark. And this is a little thing we call We Like Movies. We chit chat and we review all types of movies. Our hand selected uh, selections is what we review here. Anyway, today we are excited to discuss the 2022 film titled Fresh, starring Sebastian Stan and directed by first time director Mimi Cave. This was a movie that was chosen by Sir Mark, and it's a movie that I've certainly seen trending on Instagram through all the different pages that I follow that are all about film. This is one that has come up quite a few times, although I knew nothing about it going into it, so had no expectations, knew nothing. And I'll give a quick synopsis. As always, please remember that we do not care about spoilers. So we are going to talk about every bit of this movie that we find interesting with no regard for, if you've seen this or not. So it is a 2022 film. It's you might not have seen it, but anyway, so yeah, this one is about a single white female named Noah who is quite unlucky in the love department. She has not found her match yet, although she is probably addicted to dating apps and constantly swiping, which leads to dates and disappointment in many regards. Eventually, she gets hit on by the handsome Mr. Stan, whose character is called Steve. And he charms her, gets her number. They go on a date, they sleep together, then they go away for the weekend. And it is during that escapade that we discover, along with Noah,
Wait,
that
wait, wait. You're just giving the synopsis, right?
um
Just a synopsis.
Things happen, is what he's trying to tell you to say, Juan. And then
okay.
the movie unfolds.
Okay, so then she discovers there's a horrible secret that Steve
Boyfriend's unusual appetites.
right. He has a hunger for that for her. And so yeah, okay. So yeah, that's the synopsis. And now Mark, since this was your selection, yeah, give us your initial thoughts.
Thank you, and I appreciate you just doing the synopsis. For all of our listeners here, I beg you to press pause and go watch this movie. Watch this movie before you hear us talk about it. Please do me that favor, because this movie is a fresh take on horror. See what I did there?
Hey.
I feel like I've heard that joke tonight.
We just started.
So why? I mean, maybe we can go into that later, but I do want to hear, because that's what everyone's saying, that this is a fresh take on horror, and I'm curious what the root of that is, or what I don't know.
Yeah, no,
But
I fully plan on getting into it. I just, wanted our listeners to know that I think this is going to be a more enjoyable episode if you've seen the movie.
that's very considerate of you. You're much more considerate than I am because like I said, have no regard for that. But
So at
No, I
this point,
know,
they should be
and
coming back from watching the movie.
that's why, yeah, that's why we're gonna, go into it. But
yeah,
I,
I
I
like it.
do, I enjoy this movie so much that I feel that it's in everyone's
Yeah.
well-being to go see it before hearing us talk about it, dissect it.
Okay, Kevin.
All right. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I will freely admit I went into this movie not wanting to like it. I went in with an eye roll. So keep that in mind as I give my quick 2 little cents here. Because I Googled it and I was like, all right, this is a little horror movie. For some weird reason, I kept thinking it was the movie Feast from Project Greenlight for some reason, and it
Awesome.
wasn't. So that's why I had like my eye roll. I was like, it's gonna be a movie like that. So what I'll say, the movie started off okay. Like it's a typical, like Juan said, like the guy meets a boy meets girl, all this stuff, and it makes you wonder what's gonna happen. And it's about 30 minutes in when the title pops up, and I was like, oh, that was just all the intro. And then the credits kick in, and I was in. I was like, okay, I'm loving this. Okay, they got me. And then things got a little creepy, and they got creepy and uncomfortable really quickly. I was like, wow. Some of it made me feel a little uncomfortable, but I think that's a credit to the acting, and I think that was on purpose.
Mhm.
So it was like I could have done with a little less extreme close-ups on some scenes. I'm like, well, okay. But overall, I again, I think it was all set, meant to set like this type of little mood in it, and I really liked what they were doing. The only and again, I ended up really liking this movie. And again, I was like, all right, let's just get through it. But I ended up really liking the movie. The only knock I had about it is I think the final act of the movie and everything like doesn't live up to like the first two, because I thought they had a lot of original stuff. I thought, again, like you said, it was fresh stuff, and then it just evolved into like almost typical type of ending. So I was like, all right. So I think it failed what came before it, but other than that, like I thought the stuff we were watching was really well presented. And again, it made me feel uncomfortable, but I think that was the point of what they were showing. And yeah, and I really liked it. And I can't get into it here. What about you, Juan?
What made you feel uncomfortable?
Okay, if we're gonna talk about it, when he says, "Oh, you betrayed me," he's like, "What are you doing?" "I'm gonna have to take a piece of your ass for like whatever." And then they showed her, and then like how she was crying, and even the stuff where she's like, "You're not gonna rape me, are you?" And she's crying and freaking, like, because it just stayed on her really, like for those scenes. And again, it's a credit to like her acting. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh wow, like this is creepy," and I'm feeling uncomfortable watching it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, I don't, not like in a bad, uncomfortable way, but I was just like, oh wow, like I really felt bad. I was like, oh, I don't want to see this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And stuff like that. And those things were the parts that were making me feel uncomfortable, because again, but I think it was, at least from my aspect, it was done on purpose to not, because we were supposed to see uncomfortable. She was in an uncomfortable position and
Mhm.
things like that. And then even when she's, going to dinner with him and stuff like that, you're like, man, this is. I mean, like you feel so, like at least I felt so bad for this girl. I'm like, wow, she's like imprisoned, and she has to do what she has to do to survive,
Yeah.
and it doesn't let up; it just stays on it. So I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. Okay. I see it. Yeah, good stuff. For me, like I said, it was an interesting experience because I did not know that this was a horror. And which was a very sorry, but it was a fresh way for me to view a movie because usually, I mean, that really hasn't happened in a very long time. I usually watch a trailer, like even this one, I had, people have been talking about it, but I hadn't read what they were saying. I did see a scene from it, which was just that opening scene where she's on the date and the guy then insults her and storms off because she tells him she's not interested in going on another date basically.
Mhm.
I had seen that clip, And so I kind of thought this was like a quirky romantic comedy. Um,
All
and
right, nice.
so then I was like, oh, but there were hints even as she met him, and even as their romance kind of ignited, there were hints that something was amiss. And so I at that point I picked up like, all right, there's got to be a twist here with this guy. It was quite the twist. I was really enjoying it. Um, I do think that when she is finally imprisoned and held hostage in his house, I had some trouble with her character. I kind of feel like she transitioned from like, you know, being in this horrific situation to all of a sudden conceiving her plan. I felt like that transition was very quick. I would have liked for them to have prolonged that a little bit longer, um, because it just felt rushed, and it made the scenario and her reaction to the scenario like kind of unnatural, and so I would have liked for them to have spent a little bit more time on that. I agree with Kevin. The ending was also a little bit disappointing. I would have liked to have seen him suffer even more, it left me a little bit unsatisfied, his demise. But I have nothing bad about like, just the decisions that were made as far as like camera shots, angles, colors, like really high production quality. One of the most enjoyable and interesting and creative title sequences, like opening credits, for me. Like I thought they were really well done. Like outside of like James Bond, or some other one, a few others that I think are memorable. For me, the way this opening credit scene was really cool. But and then I think that the reason why yeah, if you're not uncomfortable by some of this stuff, you're a machine. But I think I also picked up, like there's a review that I read which says, the movie is not actually as serious, you might think it is. So I kind of picked up like, okay, they're kind of having fun with a lot of this, and a lot of it was through Sebastian Stan's character, where he's like kind of dancing with a severed leg, and so I knew it was like a horrific situation, but at the same time, it was being presented in somewhat of a light and playful fashion, while still
Yeah.
being a horrific, thing. So that's why I kind of maybe wasn't as mortified by what was happening, because I felt like, okay, they're definitely being funny with some of these things. But I do, which I'll wait to get into. I actually think that the movie is playing on something a lot deeper here, aside from blatant feminism. But there's something also even more interesting to me that I think that the film is saying. But anyway, Mark.
uh, did you get your song in there? Perfect Day.
Yes, and thank you. That was another thing I was going to say. I did
It was used
love
so
the soundtrack.
perfectly.
Yeah, I love the soundtrack.
I became that Leonardo DiCaprio meme. I'm like, I know that one.
No, the intro, Kevin, like mwah, you said it perfectly. That really is what pulled me in. I really did like their chemistry. Like I felt like I felt like they were being real and natural, and I was a fly on the wall. So that was awesome to like just feel that chemistry, and then just that boom fresh came in. I went, whoa, all right, this is how we're going. And yeah, no, it had me going. And I think it's interesting, Juan, that you're saying that you wish you would have got a little bit more. The reason why I like the movie so much is that there weren't any long drawn out scenes. Like I felt like everything was just, yeah, I understand. she kind of jumped into this whole, oh yeah, I got to go back to loving him thing really quickly. I get it. That was pretty quick. But I just took it as, survive or die. And she was just like, I got to survive. And that's why she went with it. But I really enjoyed how quick everything was. Like nothing felt long and drawn out. And I've been so desensitized by movies. This one here was just, it was so great. Like the sex scene wasn't gratuitous. It wasn't overly long. I felt like it was perfect. It ended perfectly. We didn't need nudity to see what was happening. Like it was perfect. And then the whole cannibalism and all that stuff, like it wasn't grotesque until the bitter end. When we get to the end, that's when it got gruesome. And I felt that was a perfect icing on the cake, that we got to see him suffer the most in the way that we got to see him die in the worst way, and his wife. I mean, she died pretty gnarly too. And I think that was the most satisfying, is because we got the most gratuitous out of everything from them. So it just it felt like a fresh take on a horror movie, because there weren't a lot of the typical cliches. Like the friend actually was a friend, and she went to do friendly things. That, hey, my friend's missing, let me go do something. Like she went and got her phone. Like you saw the phones there. She was, looking around spot, made sure she went back and got her phone. Like she didn't, this movie didn't have those things like you roll your eyes like, I can't believe that happened. That always happens in a horror movie. So it felt different. I didn't feel like, it wasn't a mind-bending different take on horror, but it didn't feel like the same old thing that you normally see in a horror movie. It's just that I normally get hooked because of how gruesome it is.
See, like this guy was so despicable and inhumane, and I mean a great villain, because he's just terrible, like what he's doing. Who knows how long he's been doing this for? I mean, he's been a cannibal, he said, since he was 18. How long he's been the purveyor of flesh meat to the 1% of the 1%. Who knows how long that's been? I mean, I mean, is he really a doctor? I don't know, but
it was like zero, and he has like zero remorse.
Yeah,
as a character. There's not even one shred of like, hey, I feel bad.
Exactly. So I think for me, it was like, because they made him to that degree, like so evil, like I really needed, like the payoff really would have been really seeing this guy suffer, because like he, more than anyone else, like deserved it. And instead he, like, he got his penis bitten off. He got hit with a meat cleaver in the head a few times. And then ultimately he just got shot in the head. So he, like, because even with his penis bitten off, he was still running around like he was gonna make it.
He had some pain though. He had a lot of pain. I felt those screams.
But like, dude, I needed to see this guy like hanging from like meat hooks, and like cigarettes being burned into his skin. Like
I
needed
thought I
to
was
see.
desensitized.
But it was like, it was what the movie gave me. Like they, if like Kevin said, if he would have shown remorse or something, but it was like, this guy was like not human. Like he needs to pay for and it was like the details, right? So it wasn't that he was just killing women. Then he was like keeping their pictures and like sending their clothes and their things to like the people. Like these were like horrible things. And so, yeah, I just felt like there wasn't a sense of, true just retribution there. It was just like, all right, now you're dead.
And I think something that lessened even his comeuppance at the end was, all right, he got shot in the head. I'm like, all right, cool. But we could even dwell on that, because now, oh, here comes his wife, and now they're dealing with his wife.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even like his death was the end of it.
Yes.
Maybe if they had like killed the wife off first and then, had to finish dealing with him.
Yeah.
We could have had it, but we couldn't even sit on his death and the revenge they got, because now there's the other woman. And I kind of was disappointed with her, because they showed her leg and all this stuff. So I thought she was going to have more of a backstory or more of like something, but then she just became like oh, I'm just the bad wife also. That's it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't sure whose side she was really on.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. The wife even yeah, moved on too quickly from his death, and then you had the wife, and then the best friend's friend, Paul, who you I don't know why just yeah, I don't know why they just had him show up and then leave. Basically, you know. Um
Because I mean, yeah, that's what black people do, man. I think
But
about you think about Cuz, he do it.
but but it was weird because he left, and then the next thing shows inside the house with the wife and the other guy walking in. I was like, did they run into each other? I don't know what happened because we didn't even see them arrive. I'm like, okay, there
yeah.
they go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was a little all over the place.
So there were, yeah, interesting choices there towards the end that I just felt it wasn't as tidy, and buttoned up as it could have been toward the end there.
I feel you. I feel you. So I want to hear about your thoughts on feminism because I don't.
Oh, no, it's I mean there's the feminism stuff is very obvious. I mean, again, I think even the guy Paul at the end running away while the women are left to fight, or there's some, and then the fact that I don't know how accurate that is. I'm not a woman on a dating app. I know that they get a lot of dick pics and stuff like that, but it really a pretty crappy portrayal of most of the men in the film, but that's okay. It was not like over the top, feminism like some other films that we've seen. My point actually is, and again, I read a review that doesn't mention this at all, and maybe it is a stretch, but it does mention in this review that it's making a statement about how women's bodies are often treated like a commodity in our culture and whatnot. But I thought that this was actually more of like a metaphor for like the sex trafficking trade in many like eerie ways. There was one quote where Penny, who was next to her, she couldn't see her, there was a wall covering them, but they communicated. And Penny even mentions like, she had lost so much of her body that she was like, I don't even know who I am anymore. And so yeah, definitely taking a turn to like something way more serious, which maybe this movie is not intending to go that deep. But for me, like, that's what I kind of kept thinking, even with their quote about saying like, I cater to the 1% of the 1%. It was like very Jeffrey Epstein ish.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really felt like you could perfectly use this as a metaphor to truly make a statement about sex trafficking, which we know is fed in large part by pornography, which does treat women as merely flesh, and is horrible and dehumanizes people to the point like Sebastian Stan's character became, right? So that was something much larger that I felt, if you wanted to do that, I felt like this movie does it really well in many ways.
Yeah.
But maybe they're just having fun and not going there. But
That's the problem with Hollywood. You don't know. You really
I know.
don't know.
I know. At one part, like I was like, all right, I remembered Juan and his classes, and I was like, what's the deeper meaning? And I remember when Penny did say like, oh, I don't even know who I am anymore. I didn't think it's sex trafficking, but I did think about, like when women have sex with these guys who are just using them, and they just start losing pieces of them, and that's what I was thinking. But I was like, I like the sex trafficking part, well, because I didn't think about that angle. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
I just thought more about giving pieces of yourself away when you keep sleeping around and you're just trying to find your worth.
yeah, and I mean that's a great point, because that was another thing that I thought was, you could be kind of a oh my goodness, what was the word from the last podcast that I couldn't think of?
Hold on. I can pull up the text. Hold
um,
on. Virtue
uh,
signaling.
virtue. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. My goodness, why is that such a hard one for me? Like, this could easily be a virtue signal to men, right? Like, and even in some of those ways that I was mentioning, like, don't objectify women. Like, look, when you objectify women, you degrade them and devalue them. So like, you could easily make that argument, but then on the other hand, I'm like, if you're a woman, as a cautionary tale to you, don't sleep with a guy you just met, and then go off for a weekend with, like, not even go off on a weekend, like, just don't sleep with guys you just met. Like, hookup
Oh,
culture
there's
is,
my one dumb whore move that she pulled. She went over on a weekend with this guy after just meeting him. I guess a lot of people do that, huh?
I maybe these days. I mean, I don't know. I mean, online dating, I guess,
We've
has
never
really
done it.
taken things to another level. I mean, for sure. I mean, but even for us, it's like, it's still different, because it's not like we would do that and be at any risk, of being imprisoned. I'm sure it's happened, and there's movies that have portrayed that too. But for the most part, I mean, the real threat is to women doing this. Not only like it, like Kevin said, emotionally, what you're doing to yourself by indulging in hookups and casual sex, but then even physical, danger. Even like, there was that opening scene where she was like walking down the dark alley. It's like, don't walk down the dark alley. Why did she even park her car
I
there?
was like, yeah,
Did you
why would
see,
you
like,
park behind the restaurant?
in the front of the restaurant, there was a ton of spaces available.
They weren't available when she first pulled up.
The date didn't last that long, homie. They didn't even finish their entrees, and they were asking for the check.
Yeah,
So,
right. Fair enough.
it's like, I get, that it's not fair that the world is the way it is, but the world is the way it is. Like, take care of yourself, be safe, and don't just give yourself away to any guy. Anyway, I'm gonna get off my pedestal here. My
Nice
stump.
pedestal.
But
I will say, I just want to touch on something that you had touched earlier real fast, that I just wanted for some reason. And I like the character of the best friend, but I do remember, I'm like, how many boxes can you check off with
go on. All right. At this point in the podcast, we have lost Mark, and we have apparently lost Kevin to.
No, I'm back.
Oh, there he is.
The weather down here is a little tricky, by the way, so that I could be playing a little back there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So you were saying about categories?
Yeah, no, like, she was a tough, sassy, black, bisexual, lesbian best friend. I was like, all right. I'm like, all they had to do was make her transsexual. I'm like, all right, you got them all, bro.
Yeah.
In one little character.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember, like, when you mentioned it, I'm like, I did like her character though. Like, again, like, she actually did go looking for her friend.
Yeah.
She was, for some reason, she called the phone while she was still in the house.
I know.
So I was like, she should have been walking out and then called it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at that point, I'm like, I did, like, because you knew the wife was going to turn on her, and I did think for a while that Penny was the wife. You know what I mean? I was like, maybe she's crazy too, and she just likes talking to all these people who, these victims. But then when they show the scene, I'm like, oh, it's not the wife.
Yeah.
So yeah, so at one point I did. Maybe I was the only one, but I was like, oh, Penny's going to be the wife. She's just effing with her too, giving her hope.
Mm-hmm.
You think the wife was the one that wrote the note in the magazine?
Well, I did in the beginning, but then as you go forward, you saw the girl's face and everything. So that's why, because she wrote her name, and you're like, oh, that was her. But I did think it was the wife just giving false hope in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until they showed Penny.
Yeah, I did think that at one point too, but then they did show her. So yeah, I mean, what did you guys think of Sebastian Stan's performance?
I enjoyed it, but I mean, I thought um, uh, Daisy Edgar-Jones was. I thought she did very well. Um, and I noticed that you just said, fresh starring Sebastian Stan when it's actually starring Daisy Edgar-Jones. You got to give credit, bro.
Yeah, it's true. No, for sure. Yeah, you could definitely knock me for that. I just usually more well-known names. I've
No,
never
I figured
seen her
that. I
before.
figured that was the case. No, I know. I'm just
Oh,
busting your balls. But no, I think that you have to give her that credit because I really do think that they had chemistry. I felt it. Like I felt like flirting and dating and that they really cared about each other and she was really excited and then she was like starting to feel down and I felt all of it and I think that's a knock to them both. Yes, Sebastian Stan did great, but I think that Daisy Edgar-Jones did great just as well.
So, do you think that like explains? Are you crediting that to because again, just like I felt like she transitioned too quickly from like despair and victimhood
Mm-hmm.
to all right, now I've got a plan to seduce him and get out of here. So that happened a little bit unnaturally quickly for me. But then on his end, same thing. Like you would think he's been doing this for so long. How many women? Surely a lot of them had to have been attractive as well. And this is the one that he lets his guard up with. So is it just meant to like? Are we just meant to credit it to like this? That there was some special chemistry here, which penetrated his defenses, and and revealed his vulnerabilities.
I mean, if you think about how they first met, yeah, sure, why not? Because it's not like he knew anything about her at that point. He saw her as an attractive female and shot his shot, and it worked out. And then he just found out more and figured, oh, this one will work. But wait, I do kind of like her. But
he did say
money
at one
talks.
point, "This is going too fast."
Yeah, I mean, he's got the ultimate hustle, man. He's dating these girls and then carving them up and selling them for buku bucks. So, I mean, eventually you're gonna have a kink where you make a mistake like this, and we just, this is the part of the story of his life where we are just watching. It's happening now. So, but again, I was okay with how quick it went. I do, and women can yell and scream at me about this, but I feel like they can easily turn that on. They can easily go, oh, okay, I'm going to flirt and be attracted to this person and not have anything behind it. I absolutely believe they can do it 100% with ease. We can't do that. We don't have that in us to do that. So that's why I was okay with that. I really believe women can turn it on just like that.
Well, and also too that apparently she was one either the only one or one of the few that he had actually slept with.
Right.
But
Right.
that's what I connected it back. That's why I thought they were going to reveal, like when we saw his wife didn't have a leg. I thought the wife was a victim at one point, and then he fell in love with her, and that's how she became his wife or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought that's what was happening again with Noah's character, the girl.
It was
Yeah,
either
the
that.
wife kind of went nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was either that explanation that you just gave, or for kicks and giggles, they were just like, "Hey, why don't we see how you taste? Let me have
Yeah.
that leg." You know.
They could have. I mean, bro, they could have made her fresh too. Like they find out that she's the mastermind behind it, and she's like, "Oh, he's dead. That's all right. I'm gonna go get somebody else." And she moves on, and now we find out it's this big criminal organization, and I don't know. I always like to think of sequels, but
Yeah. Well,
her character really had nothing. There was nothing to add. Like once I saw the leg, I thought what Kevin said was going to happen, didn't, and she just like went full crazy, and I wasn't expecting that. I thought she was going to have a heart and let him something. So it did. It's just everything she did make no sense for the movie.
I also think that, again, aside from sleeping with him, the other thing that really won him over, which was so gross, and I was a little bit shocked that she went there or that the movie even went there, but when she started gobbling his meat.
In more ways than one.
she, but with the first one with the pasta and the meatball, and she really committed and actually ate the meat herself. I was like, wow. And even
When
for
they
a
did the
second,
pate with the toast,
yeah.
like hearing the crunch of that bread was making my skin crawl, thinking about what they were eating.
Well, and even for a second, I mean, that part where he serves her the meal, and you're like, oh gosh, is she gonna do it? And she does do it. Before they show her later on throwing up, and again, maybe credit to her performance, but I really was like, oh man, is she did she lose her mind or something?
Yeah.
Did she snap?
And she was like joking with him and all that. I was like, ooh.
I thought he was gonna when she asked, "Who is this? Who are we eating?" I thought he was gonna say Molly.
So did I.
Oh
was
yeah,
gonna say, oh, this boy's gonna say Molly. Oh,
yeah. When they were eating the breast.
yeah. Save the breast for last.
That's, so yeah, I mean,
Wait, real quick before we move on from, since you talked about Sebastian Stan's performance,
yeah,
like, it reminded me like when Morgan Freeman, he was in a movie called Street Smart where he played a pimp, and I saw him in an interview once talking about like, oh, how were you so menacing? And he said the credit's not to me because I was just playing my part. The credit's to the woman who was acting opposite him, like the prostitute. Like she
Wow,
has so
yeah.
much fear, whatever, and it empowered his character through her performance. And I think that's what, even when y'all were talking about how like Daisy, her performance was like so good. Like it wasn't making like Sebastian Stan's character, even though he was creepy, he did a good job. It was empowering him more with like, because she was so scared, and even the part where she's like, "Are you gonna rape me?" She's like, "No." She's like freaking out.
yeah,
It just made him more of a powerful bad guy because he wasn't just like, "Hey, I'm just gonna like chain you up, whatever." Like he just stayed stoic because she was freaking out, and to me, it was making him more menacing and more, because he's like, "Don't do that. No,
yeah,
that's not gonna work because this is happening." And he was very calm, but her freaking out was like giving his character so much more like power
yeah.
that I thought it was really great.
Well, and I think even for me, beyond that, it was powerful, but I felt it was more like, because for him it was like just muscle memory. Like he's been through this so many times, and for me that was again just so dark for that character, that he was. I mean, he was an NBA All-Star when it came to cannibalism. He had just been through that so many times that none of it phased him. But I think there's definitely a lot of what you're describing. I'm curious your guys' opinions. Because every time there's cannibalism in movies and people who enjoy cannibalism, it's always like it's so delicious, and there's just something so unique about it. Like, do you think
You,
that
are you wondering if we ever thought about, hey, do we want to taste it? Is that what you're about to ask me? If
I mean, I could lose a piece of my butt, but
That big old rump, yeah, you're right.
no, I mean, like, do you, like, would there? Because I just think, like, even as I was watching this, I was like, I just feel like it would taste like any other, like any other meat. Like, why would it taste any different?
Well, in theory, it would taste bad because
That's
it'd
what.
be more
Yeah,
it's more acidic because like most of the meat we eat are like grass eaters.
yeah,
We don't really eat meat eaters or
yeah,
omnivores much.
yeah,
So because they usually don't taste as good as even lions. They eat like gazelles who are eating grass.
yeah.
I mean, that's usually the meat you tend to gravitate towards.
Yeah, I agree. Like, if anything, I feel like it would taste worse.
Yeah. Like I'm trying to like close my eyes and taste like myself, and
Hmm.
it doesn't taste good. Like,
But then,
but see, Hannibal, he's the one that said you need a nice Chianti, right? Maybe we need to pair with some wine. That's what we're missing.
well, even like his character said in this, Steve, he was like, in the hands of a proper chef, or maybe we're just not proper.
Hmm.
No, for me, it's always going to be the thought. Like, it doesn't matter how you cook it, how you prepare it. It's always going to be flesh of a human, and I will never be able to get that out of my head.
Yeah, definitely just makes you think. Not about that, but just like crazy, evil, sicko people that have done this. Or I recently saw something on Twitter. I think it's probably fake, but something about people drinking teenagers' bloods to stay younger or
Dude,
something
you
like that.
never know, man. You never
That's what
know.
I'm saying.
That was the baby blood.
That's what that too.
That too, probably. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah,
Who
but
knows?
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Wait, quick question. Did y'all know, and I did not know this because I guess on Hulu, like it pops up the next thing. There was a mid-credit scene on this movie.
I
You're the one that
remember.
always watches.
Oh no, you know what? Hulu kicked me out. I started
Yeah,
going through the credits, and it just popped up for an ad for something else, and I just
yeah,
closed it out.
yeah. That's what happened with me because it popped up. So I was like, oh, let me back. But as I was reading about it, I was like, apparently, like mid-credit, there's the 5 clients they kept showing him send stuff to are all like in a white room, seated at a table with a live like human bleeding, like with meat, like bleeding meat there, and with satanic symbols all around. Then they're in credits, so it kind of shows like maybe it was a satanic organization they were doing. But I was like, I didn't know
Oh
if y'all saw that or not because I read about it. I was like, oh, let me ask them if anyone
no,
else saw it.
stupid Hulu.
No, but
Yeah,
even there was they showed that it was there was a satanic symbol in the movie. I don't remember. I think it was maybe on a plate. Yeah, I think it was on the plate of one of those
oh,
people.
like the golden bull or
Yeah,
something, or
that's a goat,
yeah.
my friend.
Oh, goat. Sorry,
Which
goat. I'm
is
sorry.
yeah.
Sorry, I don't know
Yeah.
my satanic symbols.
Well, that is one of the main ones.
Juan went to school for that too, bro.
No, that's
Class.
that. I mean, did you guys see that movie, The Witch? That was
I
a bit. I
I
mean,
remember that. Yeah,
yeah,
Which?
the goat is a common.
the Vitch.
I
It's a
know. It's
common association with the devil and with
paganism.
yeah.
Oh
There's
no,
I mean
no.
that's also that statue that
I,
they keep putting up in
I,
different
I
parts.
I know it from the movie Dragnet with Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks. The bad
Hmm.
guy has the goat head on. That's where I
Yeah,
know it from.
yeah. So it was
Good
definitely
reference.
I did like that. That they kind of were pretty. That was pretty evident that they made that explicit, that it was definitely like a satanic thing, because it was. I mean, it's so evil. So
That's baffling, but I guess when you've got all the money in the world, what else do you do with it? I'll never
mhm.
understand greed like that. Like you have so much, just nothing to do with it. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, continue.
Just evil. All right. Yeah, I guess unless anyone has any final thoughts in closing, we can move on to our ratings. I'd like to
I have.
remind.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
Before we get into your one thing that I want to ask you about, that guy in the beginning, right? Did anyone else find that scarf so obnoxious?
That was the
For the
boy.
yeah, yeah.
well, even before he dipped it in the food and everything, when he just sat there, I'm like, I don't like you based on that scarf and that scarf alone. I didn't even know how it was gonna go. They just showed him. I'm like, oh my god! Like I just want to. Like it was just. Like literally, it's my note. That scarf is so obnoxious.
It was perfect.
It was the scarf along with every single word that came out of his mouth.
Yeah, and then it got worse. I'm like,
wanted to just punch him in the face.
And I did write like, are men really like this? And I'm guessing they are, but
Yeah, I mean,
it was.
Why don't you catfish as an experiment? Why don't you start a profile? We should do that. We should do an
interesting.
experiment where we open up a dating profile as a woman and see what the results are. I think I would probably be. That would probably be the thing that would make me a feminist.
Yeah, that's when you're running.
No doubt about it. Ladies, be careful out there. All right.
But as you were saying, you were explaining our rating system.
Yeah, so we rate on the Little Jerry's spectrum, in which a 3 is an excellent movie that you would recommend to everyone, just about. A 2 is a very indifferent result, in which you could take it or leave it. And a 1 is pretty much that you did not enjoy it, maybe even hated it, and then all types, anything really between that, even outside of that at times. So that's just to give you an idea of what you're dealing with here. So does Mark go first? Or
yeah. Since I was the pick, for me it is 3 Little Jerry's. I have already told people to watch this movie, by even starting this podcast by telling you to go watch the movie. And if you still listen to us, and hopefully we didn't ruin it for you, you should still go and watch this movie. The negative things that Juan brings up are actually surprisingly the things that I liked about it. I did like how short it was, how quick to the point it was, because horror movies tend to be drawn out sometimes, and I'm tired of that. But this was just perfect. It fit that little. It wasn't too overly grotesque. It wasn't gratuitous. There wasn't nudity. Horror movies always have nudity now for some reason. That's just a staple now, that you're going to see some big old boobies. I don't know why, but we didn't have that, and it was just it was fresh to just feel and experience this movie. So please go do yourself a favor and watch it again.
Boobs have always been a staple of horror movies.
I know. I don't know. I don't know why.
Oh, because you said it was more recent. But
I mean,
always been.
No, not the horror movies I watch, like zombie movies and.
No, but like back to like Grindhouse stuff from the 70s and whatnot.
Oh yeah. But that's a whole genre in its own.
Okay. I'll go next. I would say I definitely enjoyed the first half of the movie more, and not that I didn't enjoy the second half, but like the first half I was really like glued in, and really following along with what was going, and the characters were really interesting. And then for the second half, I definitely think there were some issues there with the story development, and with just the way some things unfolded for the characters. So for me, it was good. I enjoyed the experience. I don't know that I'll ever watch it again, but I will also credit it for, again, my clever interpretation of it being a metaphor for the actual problem of sex trafficking. So because of that message that can be dug up from the content of this film, for me, it's going to be a 1.75. 1 3/4 Little Jerry's.
All right.
Chopped up and fried up. Real good.
All right. At least they're fried good.
I teetered on it because we only do 1, 2, 3, which 1 is pass, 2 is, we like it, we don't like it, and 3 is like strongly recommend.
Why do you have to redo what I already did? I already did this, Kevin.
Okay, I didn't interrupt you when you spoke, sir. Just want to
But I
remind you.
didn't repeat what you said.
I know, but I was gonna say because I was reminding people because I'm like I've always I wish we had a little bigger scale to go on. That's what I was gonna throw out there. So I teetered between like two numbers because again I guess I can't say anything because you've already said the things that I've liked about the movie. So I guess I can't repeat words that have been used.
Goodness.
What is happening?
I don't know, but again I would recommend it. You know what I mean? I don't know if I would strongly recommend everyone because it's not for everybody, but I'd probably give it a solid 2.5, which if this was a scale of 1 to 5, it'd be a 4. So yeah, 2.5 is what I would give it.
Okay.
All right. 2.5/4.
And I apologize to anybody out there who was offended by me repeating what Juan said.
I don't think anyone's offended. In fact, I was going to say, Mark, before we sign off, would you like to explain what the rating is?
In case anyone missed it, we
Sounds like
have a
somebody was
scale
offended.
of 1 to 3 little Jerry's, with 1 being a forget. I'm not going to go through all this.
Okay. Just to make a point.
You guys were listening intently.
I really want.
I was like, how's he gonna do it?
Gonna let me go. I was really thinking about making it long and drawn out, but we don't want to do inside jokes just between.
Hey, listen, I want you guys to know it was a long week. I missed you guys.
Yeah, it's been
Likewise.
It's
been
nice to be back. Let's do it again real soon.
It's nice to watch movies. Yeah. All right. Hey, I'm down for it.
Kutaruski.
Love you.
Take the shoes off.